other side, the big Israel-Hamas war and what it has in store. Coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, the Israel-Hamas war is in its penultimate stage. The Israeli forces are scouring every nook and corner of the biggest Gaza hospital and other medical facilities. The findings, as per the Israeli forces, are nothing but shocking. From the tunnel shaft beneath the hospital to the arsenal of arms to the hidden, booby-trapped vehicle containing explosives. Israel says that the hospitals are nothing but Hamas terror dens. More cache of explosives are being unearthed in the Al-Quds and Rantisi hospitals as the Israeli soldiers intensify the raid. The IDF soldiers even found a stockpile of rockets kept in a storage unit underneath the bed in a children's ward. Both sides have suffered heavy casualties amidst this conflict. At the Voice of Global South Summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi strongly condemned the deaths of civilians in Israel-Hamas war and stressed that dialogue and diplomacy are the only way forward. Listen in to Prime Minister Modi.
हम सभी देख रहे हैं कि पश्चिम एशिया क्षेत्र की घटनाओं से नई चुनौतियां उभर रही हैं। भारत ने 7 अक्टूबर को इजराइल में हुए जघन्य आतंकी हमले की निंदा की है। हमने रिस्ट्रेंट के साथ ही डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी पर भी जोर दिया है। इजराइल और हमास के कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में सिविलियंस की मौत की हम कठोर निंदा करते हैं। राष्ट्रपति महमूद अब्बास जी से बात कर हमने फिलिस्तीन के लोगों के लिए मानवीय सहायता भी भेजी है। ये समय है जब ग्लोबल साउथ के देश ग्रेटर ग्लोबल गुड के लिए एक स्वर में बात करें।
You're watching the News Hour at 9, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining me today on the News Hour is Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, Senior Spokesperson of the IDF. Thank you very much for joining me here on the News Hour. Reportedly, the IDF has found a large amount of weaponry inside the Al-Quds hospital. Can you tell us the range and kind of ammunition found in the hospital premises, and are you fully convinced that the terror network and the headquarters of the Hamas has been operating from some of these hospital basements?
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, we have without a doubt revealed Hamas's concept of operations. We've seen it in the Rantisi hospital, we've seen it in the Shifa hospital, and we're seeing it also today in the Al-Quds hospital. The extent of their operations within hospitals includes operational facilities, command and control capabilities, the extensive tunnel network so that they're connecting in order to either operate within the tunnels or escape from the hospitals or escape to the hospitals. And indeed, the extent of it just goes to show what a strategic operation it was for Hamas. Now, this is probably the underground terrorist infrastructure, the tunnel system, is probably the most expensive construction project that has ever existed in Gaza. This is at the expense of the people of Gaza and not for the people of Gaza.
So let me ask you, you talk about a very complicated tunnel system. So far, there are reports that have contradicted these claims and saying 1 or 2 tunnels don't make it really the headquarters of the Hamas. Is there any specific information that you can tell us from the precise and targeted operation at the Al-Shifa hospital compound so far that you can reveal to the world?
Indeed, we have revealed several access points of tunnels. And of course, where there is an access point, there is a tunnel. And this is just a couple of the examples that we found in over 500 tunnel access points that we found since the beginning of this operation, since the war erupted on the 7th of October, when Hamas came into our houses and butchered Israeli families, mothers, children, and abducted 240 other Israeli and foreign nationals. So from our point of view, from our question, we are still, we're just now 48 hours into this operation around Shifa. We're still scratching the surface of the operation, but we are determined to dismantle it and make sure that Hamas can never use these tools of terror against us again.
While the IDF has issued a notification to civilians to vacate the hospitals, the forces have also indicated that there are still some civilians present inside. Since the IDF has taken command of the premises now, what can you tell us about the account of how many hospital staff and how many civilians are still on the compound?
So that we've, over the last 3 weeks, been encouraging people to leave this area. And before the ground operation began some 2 weeks ago, we had around 30,000 people in the premises of the hospital, And we are aware now of about 1,000 people, which includes patients, staff, and people taking refuge on the compound. Indeed, it is a dire situation, and that is why yesterday the IDF brought water supplies, food supplies, and also medical supplies to the hospital. We've also, in the day beforehand, we brought incubators that we are aware that they've been using them in the hospital. So yes, when we came into the to the Shifa compound, we had two main goals. First of all, distinguish between the civilians and hunt out the terrorists. So the distinguishing actually means that we made sure that they keep away from the windows. We instructed the administrative staff of the hospital to keep people away from the windows and make sure that they are not involved and that they are in the different wards that they need to be in. And on the other hand, we conducted our operations revealing the extent of the ammunition, the weapons, the mortar bombs, the RPGs, the communications and technology capabilities that they have. So yes, the operation is two-pronged in that sense, where we need to distinguish between the civilians, but enable the ongoing operations to counter Hamas's command and control capabilities from the Shifa compound.
Lieutenant Colonel Lerner, does this really mean that Palestinian health officials have been lying about the existence of military equipment in the hospital premises?
Well, we've shown the extensive amount of the different types of munitions that we found, whether it's AK-47s or it's RPGs or it's a truck like the trucks that penetrated into Israel on the 7th of October, parked full of explosives and munitions and weaponry in the compound of the hospital. I'm not aware of any hospitals that have to have that type of munition in their parking spaces. So I would say that I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the hospital staff. Unfortunately, it is the Hamas Ministry of Health. Everything there is cleared, approved for publication, or censored through the Hamas government, the Hamas propaganda machine. So even if they were good intentioned, they couldn't say the truth. And now we are showing the world the truth. The truth is very clear. Hamas lies, they butcher babies in their bedrooms. Why wouldn't they lie about parking a truck full of explosives or using terror tunnels beneath the hospital as in order to attack us? So yes, Hamas lies.
Well, I was talking about the hospital officials. Are they part of Hamas at this moment, are you saying? Why did they not come clean? Were they under pressure? Were they being threatened? Any information on that you can share?
So obviously, Hamas runs everything. The Hamas Ministry of Health employs the hospital officials. Everything goes through that channel. So there is no difference between the Hamas Ministry of Health and the Hamas government. It is one and the same. And that is why I say, yes, perhaps they didn't know. Perhaps they could, but they definitely couldn't say even if they did know. So it wouldn't really make a difference. They denied it. We proved that they didn't. They were not being truthful.
Well, the IDF has also claimed that it has found the body of 19-year-old Noah Marciano adjacent to the Shifa hospital in Gaza. She was reportedly abducted and murdered by the Hamas terrorists on October 7th. But there are other reports, including BBC, which has reported that maybe she was killed in an Israeli airstrike on the 9th of November, though they also claim they can't independently verify this. What's the real truth?
So the truth is that Hamas abducted and were responsible for her well-being and killed hostages as they saw fit. It's not only Noah Marciano that suggests this, but also the other hostage that we retrieved body. And this is just Hamas. You know, we can't trust a word they say. You know, if they're telling us that she was killed, it doesn't mean anything. They have a propaganda effort that is meant to exert the immense pain to the Israeli public, and that is why they are lying about everything. You know, when we are operating, we are doing it with the hostages in mind. We're doing everything we can in order to bring them home safe and sound. Indeed, their presence in the Gaza Strip influences our operational activities. And this is the ruthless, merciless enemy that we are facing. They have no regard. You know, the youngest hostage being held is 10 months old, a 10-month-old baby boy, Kfir.
Let me ask you this question that many are asking. Human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch have cited World Health Organization data to claim that more than 500 people have been killed specifically on strikes on these medical facilities. Do you dispute these numbers?
Yes, the IDF does not strike medical facilities. We've actually gone out of the way to prevent damage to medical facilities. Of course, if Hamas is launching rockets from adjacent to medical facilities, then it jeopardizes the medical facility in itself. But we do not strike medical facilities, not by any stretch of the imagination. If there are strikes that are taking place adjacent, then shrapnel can be dispersed, but that's not an intentional strike. You know, we are utilizing our force in accordance to the laws of armed conflict on the principles of distinction, military necessity, and proportionality. And we're constantly weighing up those three in order to employ our military force in order to achieve our goals of destroying, dismantling Hamas as a governing authority of the Gaza Strip, as a terrorist entity that utilized military force against our civilians. And this is the enemy we are facing, basically. And we have to be very, very cautious when accepting anything they tell us.
Do you have any other information of the 240 hostages that were taken, given the fact that, you know, some bodies are being now found? Any information on the well-being of the others who still seem to be in the Hamas hostage situation?
Obviously, this is a very sensitive issue. I can't go into specific details. One of our goals of this war is to bring home the hostages safe and sound. The International Committee of the Red Cross, we have demanded that they have access to the hostages in order to assess their well-being. Unfortunately, I can't report that that's actually happened. We are utilizing it as a national priority. The people, their families, the families of 238 people have been torn to pieces in the last 6 weeks now, and this is a true tragedy. This is what we are facing, and yes, when and if we have the operational opportunity based on intelligence, then we will operate. Otherwise, there's a diplomatic effort that is taking place by the diplomats, and that is also something that could bring to a release. But I can't elaborate beyond that.
But we're 42 days into the war between Israel and Hamas. Are we still hopeful about the well-being of the hostages? And are we making any great progress as far as the diplomatic channels are concerned?
So I'm not a diplomat. I'm a military official, so I can't really comment on that. Hopeful, I think hope is not a method. We are working in order to find, locate and operate in accordance to the operational assessment. That is our obligation, and we are utilizing all of our capabilities in order to bring them home. That's what we need to do.
I also want to ask you, the IDF had stormed the Al-Shifa hospital and stayed inside for 24 hours. You discovered AK-47s, hand grenades, military uniforms and a laptop which included a photo of a kidnapped Israeli soldier in the hospital. Any other telltale signs of whether these hostages were kept in this hospital for some time? Any material evidence to give some inkling of where they might be?
So, of course, we're gathering lots of intelligence all the time, and some of the materials that are being picked up in Shifa as we are going are also obviously contributing. Unfortunately, because of the sensitivity of the issue, I can't elaborate on that.
Is there also an escalation of violence in the West Bank territory? Now there are reports of at least 7 Palestinians who've been killed in clashes with the IDF. Can you give us any details of this escalation?
Yeah, we are seeing an effort on behalf of Hamas and other terrorist organizations to conduct terrorist attacks against Israel, also within the West Bank. The IDF conducted a substantial operation overnight in Jenin camp, in order to engage and destroy and attack Hamas and other terrorist organization operatives, the terrorists themselves. And I can confirm that we have at least 5 terrorists that were killed in exchanges with the IDF forces. We also exposed explosive devices along the roads of the camp. So yes, there is an uptick for sure in the West Bank. It's a challenge. You know, Hamas have an interest to increase the violence in the West Bank, but our role is to make sure that uptick does not exceed or succeed in killing or abducting or murdering any Israelis. And so we are taking the fight to them and making sure that the situation is under control.
Is the end of this war anywhere in sight, Lieutenant Colonel Lerner?
Unfortunately, I can't say so. You know, the government has not given us a time limit to achieve our goal of destroying and dismantling Hamas as a governing authority. You know, they use, when I say a governing authority, they used all of the tools of government in order to build their terrorist infrastructure. They used all of the tools of government in order to build explosive drone capabilities. They used all of the tools of government to build the tunnel network. They used all of the tools of government in order to build a terrorist army. When we look at this, is the reason they have to go. They've had power in Gaza now for 16 years. This is no quick fix. It's going to be a long war. It has to be successful. We're determined to achieve our goals and implement our directives. So yes, unfortunately, I can't say that it's any time near. Hopefully, we will be able to achieve stage by stage, strike by strike, our goals and make sure that Hamas can never wield the sword of death above our heads ever again.
Well, clearly, everybody around the world needs to condemn the terror, but obviously, our heart goes out to those civilians and young children who are having to pay the price of war. We hope all of this can be done at the earliest with minimum casualties, especially amongst the civilians. We leave it at that. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Lerner, for joining me on the Newshour tonight.